today we have Ophelia from Security Compass. Welcome, Ophelia.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
So, can you do a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Opheliar Chan, and I am a Director of Security and Consulting at Security Compass. My current role includes doing a lot of business and process development. So we have a product called ST Elements, which is a policy to procedure platform.
Okay.
And I'm doing business development around how to get that to stick within organizations, how to get the product to work for different use cases,
Right.
How to involve it in the secure DevOps lifecycle and
Yes.
those types of things. Prior to that, I did some software and SDLC process consulting.
Okay.
That was my bread and butter, and I spent a little over 8 years being a pen tester before that.
Oh, okay.
And then prior to that, I've done some work in different kinds of security consulting, a little bit of like vulnerability management type thing. I was
Okay.
a developer for a while.
Right.
I was a tech writer for a little while.
Yes.
I was a security researcher for a little
Okay.
while. So yeah, been in InfoSec and consulting specifically for about a decade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so aside from my day job, I also volunteer for a number of different organizations. So
Yeah.
one of them is the OWASP Toronto chapter.
Okay,
So
yeah.
Myself and Yokfei are the two co-leads.
Yeah.
We have about
That's for web applications.
that's
security.
for web application security,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
for the Open Web Application,
Right.
Open Web Application Security
Yes,
Project,
yeah.
which is a global not-for-profit.
Right.
And we hold monthly meetups to bring people together and
Yes.
talk about different types of web application security problems. So
Right.
that particular meetup is, we're trying for the second Wednesday of every month, but
Yeah.
we're on Meetup, and those meetups are free.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So what I can hear is you have a great experience in specifically in application security side, because you
Focus.
from a developer, then you're consulting, you also looking at the different product framework to do that. Right? So speaking of the DevOps, right? So that's a new term, not new term, it's a hot term for hot term for a lot of developers right now.
Yeah.
But the secure DevOps is relatively new, but very, very important. So what's your view on that one?
All right. So for the longest time, we separated out all these different functions inside IT and technology in order to scale it upwards in a certain sense, right?
Right.
Try to make sure that we could compartmentalize what it is that those people do, and then scale it better because you can train people a little bit better on like smaller tasks, right?
Yeah.
And now we're putting it all back together in DevOps.
Okay.
And way back when I first started, it was like all full stack development because you never did anything like what we're doing now.
Right.
Right? But I feel like software is in that industrial revolution stage
Right.
where we're going from like all bespoke products
Okay.
back in the early 2000s and like the 1990s
Yeah.
to like IKEA kitchen kind of
Right,
software
right.
right
Piece
now,
here,
right?
piece
A
there,
little
right,
piece
yeah,
here, a little piece
yeah.
there. So the whole DevOps thing is just that, is like configurations and bringing development and operations back together and redistributing some of the power into the different pieces of the development lifecycle. And then just adding security on top of it in some way that matches with that particular format, right? I don't really think that DevOps is necessarily tied to like Agile or like to CI/CD or whatever it is. Those are like characteristics of how people like to implement it, but I
Right.
sort of think more of development, like DevOps, as like a very automation, very like let's try to scale the thing that we've been doing so far in a different way by leveraging the technology that we have,
Yeah.
to continue to do good things and to continue to add security to the development lifecycle.
Okay. Feels like a
Product
vision
life
or
cycle.
like a philosophy or
Yeah.
kind of like
Very
putting
much so.
and also break the silo of different pieces, putting them together.
Putting them back together to a
Yeah,
degree.
back to
yeah.
together. And because if there's so many pieces, when you try to add a security to different pieces, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
So it's better to see like a complete process to make that.
Well, because there's lots of things in security that are really cross-cutting concerns,
Right.
right? So when you're siloed, you deliberately have minimized the number of cross-cutting concerns that you have.
Right.
But then security is all about defense in depth, right? So
Yeah. And not just technology-wise, but also people, right? So the different teams. So when you have this process, you can put them together and work at the same goal together.
yeah, and you align the people's priorities back together as well,
Okay, that's good.
which is usually a problem.
All right. So how long have you been in security? Like more than 10 years, what I hear, in the
Yeah.
overall
I've been in security consulting for about 10 years.
Oh, okay.
I was in security research for about a year and a half.
Okay. Is there any interesting story there? Or the
Interesting
most
stories.
memorable moment or aha moment or whatever?
I would say like personally,
Mhm.
my aha moment of like for my personal career was
Yeah.
I had left a company that I'd been with for a while,
Yeah,
being the most junior team member,
right.
and went to a company where it was one of the more senior team members. And I realized from that transition
Right.
that I had grown a lot as
Okay.
an individual. So I saw people who were in the same situation as I was like 5 or 6 years ago, and I
Right.
realized how much I had grown.
Right.
In terms of like technical memorable things, I still remember the week that Heartbleed
Oh,
kind of
okay, yeah.
hit the news, and I was managing the scanning programs for a couple of vendors at the time.
Okay.
So that week, I think I was on and off the phone.
Yeah.
I'd put
Really,
down the phone for
the
a service
bleeding,
call,
right?
right?
Yeah.
It's like I didn't sign up to do operations, but I guess I'm doing it now,
Right.
and like all of us are bleeding, not just the
Yeah.
computers, right?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
in the heart, right?
Yeah. It was a very interesting week.
Okay.
But I feel like I grew a lot as a person
Right.
in that particular week, and I think I made a lot of connections to my clients at that
Right.
time as well, because we really had to pull together to try to handle the situation in as much possible time as we could.
Mhm.
And it was a good experience in the aftermath.
All right, wonderful.
Right. Yeah.
I guess that's also the things unique to security as well, is you always feeling a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
And the bigger challenge, a lot of times you're kind of scared, but if you can resolve that one, face that challenge, then your growth, like a ratio, right? Like what you said, all of a sudden within that, you're from the junior member to the senior member, that's a big jump. And also within that 1 week kind of bleeding time, you learn a lot,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of a uniqueness about the security jobs.
Yeah. And you learn a lot about yourself too, not
Yeah.
just like the technology that
Understand
you're getting into,
the-
right? Yeah.
Wonderful. And so as we from cyber tech risk,
Mhm.
right? So we care technology, but we
Mhm.
also care risk. So
Mhm.
putting them together, we usually say security, right? So putting those things. Do you have anything to say to our members or people today?
Okay. What the risk people do is very important, I
Okay.
would say, right? And so I really appreciate the role that they play in organizations,
Right.
but I also have to say that from a like DevOps perspective
Right.
and from an AppSec perspective, they're often the least flexible people when it comes to like changing some of the rules or like
Yeah,
talking
you have
to people
to
about-
follow the
Right?
compliance. Or
And I understand why,
Mhm.
because that is really a very large part of their job,
Yeah.
is to keep us on the right track,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Regardless of all these people pushing back and saying, no,
Right.
we don't want to do this, or
Yeah.
we want to do it differently,
Right.
right? But for DevOps, that transformation aspect, we really have to involve the risk people, and they really understand like the things that are the absolute necessities to get away with.
Right.
But the technology people are the ones who are going to try to understand how the landscape is changing to
Mhm.
make either those threats like shift into different places or to mitigate them in different ways,
Right.
right? And so we need the flexibility as like a DevOps organization, especially
Okay.
when we're starting it,
Right.
to experiment with little pieces. So
Okay.
what I usually ask from risk people is to look at the risk policies and look at the other things that they're doing and identify those things are like really top 3 or top 5 things that you really cannot do without because they really contribute most importantly to risk,
Okay.
right? And then the rest of the things, let the technology
Prioritize,
teams experiment with them a little bit or have discussions about them, because the way that we're calculating risk, the way that we're monitoring risk, the way that we are measuring risk, it can all be changed now because of the speed of technology and the type of technology we have access to.
Yeah.
And the types of like instrumentation and things like that are normal now for us to be able to deploy.
Mm.
So the landscape of like data points and all those things are different, but we have to have the room to experiment, or
Okay.
we'll never get to the place where we can give them more
Right.
than what we currently have.
The communication is very
Right?
important
So
for
very
those two.
important, and prioritization, just like the risk people are always the ones who say we're going to prioritize the most critical things first. So I really, really, really encourage them to prioritize the most important things first for the security people, and to have that discussion with like the people in the software development lifecycle as well, as to say this is what we need to achieve and why we need to achieve it. I'm open to ways to do that in a different way than what our current process. But I think that's the only way we're going to progress, because the risk people are really our guardians, right? So we need their buy-in.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, very good insight. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Opheliar. Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.